Okay, hello everybody. How are you? Good afternoon. This is again me, Alejandro Castillo from Mexico City, the largest city in the world. And today is Wednesday, September the 30th of 2020. The third quarter is gone, so we expect that the fourth quarter could be uh, better for all of we in volleyball world and as a persons. But well, I'm very glad because we have today a very special guest, an international volleyball personality, Mr. Alexander Sandy Steele from Glasgow, Scotland. How are you, Sandy? How's everything over there?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, everything is going well here. We have the same issues as everywhere else, but we're coping, and we're keeping volleyball alive. Let's put it that way. And this volley talk is a really good idea at this time.
Well, yeah, I have had here great volleyball personalities, and you are not the exception, of course. Mr. Sandy Steele has a great experience in world volleyball, and a long time president of FIVB Rules of the Game Commission, and current member of the FIVB Rules of the Game and Refereeing Commission. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I look after the e-learning aspect of referee education. So that's what I do.
And I also read yesterday that you have been the president of the Scottish volleyball referees for the last 43 years or something like that.
Yeah, since 1977. Yeah,
43 years.
it's a long time. Yeah, it's one of these jobs that you think, well, you offer it to the other guys. You say, well, who's going to be president now? And everybody backs away. They say, no, well, you can continue, you can do it. So since 1977, no breaks, no nothing. That's me. So I think they just want to glue me to the seat until I die.
That's why. But do you still ref some games or not
No,
exactly?
no, no, no. I reckon I'm a little bit too old and slow now. I mean, that's I'm what 71 now, and so I think my refereeing days are long past. In fact, my last refereeing of international matches was way back, just before I joined FIVB.
Right. Well, you must know Genaro Redondo. Genaro Redondo still work as a not as a referee, but as a referee coach in Monterrey, in North Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Genaro.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get to know a lot of people, and you actually get to teach a lot of people. So over the years, I've actually been involved in lots of referees courses and met lots of people, and hopefully some of the things that I have learned and I've been able to pass on to younger referees have actually benefited them and made their journey to be a top referee a little bit shorter, because that was something that I always felt was that there were very few role models for my federation, and so we had to learn by making a lot of mistakes. And I tell you, I made a lot of mistakes, but over the years, learning things to do, things not to do, things that other folk had had done in the past, good things as well as not so good things. I was able to pass that on, and that was really the bottom line for me was could I pass that information on, and when I did referees courses, for example, I got a real buzz out of watching young referees coming in. They didn't know anybody on the course, but within 2 days they had formed a team, and they were actually really working together, supporting each other. And at the end of the day, they left the course with a much greater experience, and then they flew off to do their own international careers. And many years later, I would see people that I had instructed, and they were actually coming to the end of their international career. So I got to see the beginnings and I got to see the end. So that was really nice. That was really nice, and it happened quite a lot. It tended to show how old I was, and unfortunately, you know how old you are when the people that you taught are retiring.
Like who? Like who? Like what referees?
Oh well, would be hard to actually say the names, but certainly a lot of them over the years have come and they have gone, and no, I will not say the names, but for sure there was a lot of them that I taught and have now come and gone, and had great international careers in the middle of all that. So yeah.
Okay, well, we will talk a little bit later about about teaching referees, but I want to know about your beginnings in volleyball. Well, Scotland it's not a secret. It's not a big power in volleyball, or Britain entire, but it's interesting how do you start up in volleyball in a country that, well, rugby is big, cricket is big, soccer is big. How do you start in volleyball? About your beginnings?
Okay, well, let's go back even before I started to play. There was a physical education teacher who had gone to Scandinavia, and he had seen volleyball there, and he came back enthused by the sport. He hadn't seen it before, but he brought the game back to Scotland, and a few schools began to play it. My school began to play it, and I'll be honest, I had moved from one school to another school. So my first school didn't play it, the second school did play it, and I was a very poor player because I really had no idea what the rules were. And so this was way back around about 1965, 66. And we played it in a small gymnasium. We stretched a net between the bars and the walls and so on, and we played maybe 12 people on each side. We had no concept of the rules at all. And then when I went to university with the same group of people who had been in that small gymnasium, we formed a volleyball club. And we had an experienced coach who actually taught us really how to play better, properly, in fact. And so we progressed from there. Now that group of people who had gone with me, in fact, they left university before I did, and so that whole group disappeared, and so I was left, and so we had to reform the club, and I became the coach. I became a player. I was the referee occasionally, and so on. And then around about 1971-ish, I learned that refereeing was actually much more important for me than anything else. And so by 1977, having refereed in our national league for the intervening years, I then attended an international referees course in Landskrona in Sweden, called the Landskrona Cup. That was the competition that was there, and I was there along with Andre Meyer, who was a colleague of mine on the course. He went on to become FIVB vice president for many years.
President of European Confederation, right?
That's right. He was CEV president for many years, in fact. And so that course generated some really good people. So we had our course director was Andre Holve, the famous Andre Holve, the legend.
Yes, I know. From
And
Hungary.
another one was Arno Hermann from Germany. So those were the two directors. The course in those days was in 2 languages. We did it in maybe even 3 languages. We certainly did it in English, maybe French and German, I think, which tended to make the theory a little bit long. But at the end of the day, we had a really good course, and from that moment onwards, I began my international referees career as best we could. You're right. We were not a powerhouse in terms of national team play. We variously rose and fell around about the same level as countries like Norway, and and Denmark and so on. And then gradually they might have overtaken us. Sometimes we were equal and so on. A lot depended on money that was available. As a federation, we did not have a lot of money, but we made the best we could from what money was there given by the government. There's not a great culture of sponsorship for sport in the country. Other places, you would go to places like Netherlands, and you would find that almost every little village had a sports hall, and it was sponsored, and everybody played volleyball. You go to Scotland, you did not find exactly the same thing at all, and it was very difficult to get sponsors to support teams and so on. But nevertheless, we tried the best we can, and from that point onwards, my career was international referee. Okay. In between times, there was a few things I also did. I coached their national under-16 team for 2 years, and I coached a first division women's team in our national league as well. So I had experience of several things, but eventually I was given an invitation to join FIVB, and that came as a huge surprise. There was no reason at all why that should have happened. I had, you mentioned that I had been president of my federation's refereeing commission since 1977, and as part of that role, I had commented many times to FIVB about the way that rules were structured and so on. And okay, that was what I did, and I thought, okay, that's fine. But then from nowhere, I got an invitation. A letter arrived on my doorstep from FIVB, Ruben Acosta, who was then president of FIVB.
Yeah, Mexican.
Yeah, that's right. And he'd sent me this letter, and he invited me to join the Rules of the Game Commission. And so that was 1989. And I've been there ever since. But as I said, I mean, I really have no knowledge as to why that happened, because Ruben didn't know me physically. We'd never met. We'd never spoken. We'd never actually done any letter writing between each other, etc. But somehow along the line, some magic dust had fallen down on top of me, and I got invited to FIVB. And so that's what happened. So I arrived at a time when the Rules of the Game Commission was actually very busy. I don't know if you appreciate that it didn't just write rules. It didn't make rules. Now I'll make that point clear. It doesn't make rules. The Congress makes the rules, but the Rules of the Game Commission writes them, or wrote them at that particular time. And we also did a lot of sports science in terms of testing various processes and procedures, testing out different rules and so on, and basically analyzing and writing case books and case law, etc., so that referees would have an understanding of why a rule was written and where it was going.
Well, and that's obviously quite interesting because, well, be the president or member of FIVB Rules of the Game Commission. What the Rules of the Game is a huge part of the sport of volleyball.
Yeah.
You spent there was as a president 14 years, but you were a member since, you told me, 89.
Yeah, 89 was when I started, and then I was secretary from 92, I think, and then I was back to a member then. A little bit later, then I became secretary again, and then in 2002 I became president.
Okay, that's great. And well, you know that all people, including all that are not volleyball related, a lot of people say, hey, volleyball has been evolving a lot from 30 years to now. It's the most evolving sport internationally. But well, here we are with one of the characters of that revolution. How can you describe this environment in the late 80s to actual volleyball? It's a whole different sport. How can you describe in your words this evolution of the game? Obviously, with the marketing part, with the commercial part, but at the end, to make more attractive sport to fans, right? To crowds.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. When Ruben was president, he coined the word spectacularity. You know, so that was the motto in those days, spectacularity. We had to create a spectacular sport that would enthuse the spectators, get them excited, and get them into the stadiums. And he always said that unless you had a 5,000 spectators in the venue, you didn't have any spectators at all. So you had to have more than 5,000 in order for it to be successful. So that's what we tried to do. Later on, we had a different motto, which was keep the ball flying.
Yeah.
So that was another motto that came in. And now we have with Ari Grassa. Ari Grassa's main thrust is that he wants everything to be fair, and he wants the players to really decide the result of the matches and not have referee decisions decide the result of the matches. So really, over the years, you've actually had three different ideas. Now, they're not different really from each other. They actually combine. They actually build on each other. So spectacularity became keep the ball flying. So then the players decide the results. And from that, you have the challenge system also in place as a result of that. So all of those things tied together, actually, that's where the mindset comes in. Now, you're right. In the late 80s, things began to change. And by the early 90s, we were making changes that tried to keep the game going, but keep it spectacular. Now, for example, when I was a referee, one of the things that happened was that players who would receive service and it wasn't exactly perfectly on the two forearms, you whistled, and you said double or catch or whatever it was going to be.
Yeah.
And we looked at that and we thought, that's not very successful. That's not a very good advertisement for the game. So the rallies don't start. The referee, if the referee was having a poor day, the referee could simply whistle almost every reception, and that was it. Side out, side out, side out, and so on. So we decided to allow the first pass to be much more free, and that was a huge difference to what it had been before. So that began to open the floodgates. Okay, open the floodgates to much more flowing play, more rallies, and people liked the rallies. People actually said, "Well, this is good." Now obviously there was a lot of anxiety from people. They said, "Oh, what? Where's the pure action?" Because the ball could spin off the two fingers, etc. And they said, "That's ugly. That's ugly." And we said, "Just bear with us. It will work. Promise." And it did. I mean, if you actually ask anybody now, they would think, why was there such a problem? The second thing that happened was that we allowed players to play the ball from the whole body. When I was a referee, it was you whistled if the ball hit you anywhere below the waist.
Yeah, and
And
I think that started in '96, right?
yeah, and so what happened then was we extended to the whole body, and again, same thing happened. People would say, "Oh, well, that's really unfair. That will mean that Brazil will win all the time." And we said, "Why?" "Oh, because they're good at football." "All right, fine." Please, let's accept the fact. And then other people would say, "Oh, well, if it hits the foot, it can't be active. It has to be passive. It has to be accidental." No, this any hitting of the foot. Okay, you kick the ball kicks you, etc. That's okay. Really, and so people get really upset with this. But nevertheless, you look at it now, and you see on YouTube so many spectacular plays when the libero runs to the back of the court and kicks the ball back into play, and everybody thinks this is fantastic. So there's that kind of thing too. We also tried I wrote this particular rule with a guy called Jim Coleman, who was a very famous coach in the US, and a big buddy of mine. And I used to go and stay with Jim in San Diego, California. And we'd play beach volleyball in the morning, and we'd write rules in the afternoon. Okay. Now, one of the things that we did was we watched a match between USA and Japan.
Right.
And the camera was locked on the net, and you could see up to the attack line on each side. And we looked at this match, and we could not see any action whatsoever, because all that happened was the players would serve the ball, it would hit the net, and that would be whistled side out. Okay, and so on. And so all you got was repetitive side outs, and then you would get mopping, and then you would have more side outs and so on. So we thought, this isn't a very good idea. Let's try and let the play go. And we wrote a rule together that allowed the play to continue if the serve ball hit the net. Okay, and we took that to the commission, and we said this may be an idea for testing. Now, at that particular moment, we for some reason or another, I won't say exactly why, it was approved immediately, and we thought, no, please, you need to test this, because we don't know what the impact is going to be. Please test it. Oh, no, it will be fine. Okay, it will be fine. So they implemented it in one of the world championships immediately after that, and we the first thing that happened was the serve ball hit the net and immediately began to drop down on the server's side. The opponent reached under the net and caught the ball. And at that point, people went, oh my goodness, what do we do now? Because that was never written into the rule. And this is a thing to keep in mind at all times. If you are changing a rule, please test it first, get evidence first, so that you know what's going to happen. So I had to rewrite that rule so that the fault was that the ball did not pass through the crossing space. So as you know, when the serve ball hits the net and begins to fall back, you know it's not going to pass through the crossing space. The referee whistles and indicates the net. So that's the reason why that rule is there, because on one particular occasion in our World Championships, we hadn't worked it out. Okay, we had that.
I can imagine.
Then in addition to that, around about the same time, towards the end of the 1990s, we created the libero.
In '98, it was, right? The first
Yeah,
time.
and it was, and it came in, I think, around about 1999 as well. So we had the let service, we had the libero, and we had the other things that I mentioned, the reception, and so on. So these things were created to make the game flow, to try and get more action. Now let's talk about the libero for a minute. Now I didn't write the libero rule, and I didn't invent the libero rule. The libero rule came from World League Council, as far as I'm aware. We were given a recipe, and we were told that Mr. Matsuda, a very famous Japanese coach, had actually got this idea, and the World League Council had said, yeah, good idea. And they came to us with the recipe. And the recipe was, you want to have a specialist defensive player who can come on and off the court pretty much at will. And hopefully that this specialist defensive player will do what they need to do spectacularly. Remember, spectacularity. One of the backgrounds to this was there had been some fantastic players, one in particular I remember from USA, who wasn't very tall, but he was fantastic about moving around the court and being defensive and so on. And he would come on in the back, and he'd work his way across the back line, and then he would come off, and that was him finished for the rest of the set. And people were disappointed with that. So one of the concepts had been to try and get these spectacular players on court more often to do what they did really, really well, which was defend. Okay, so we then, as I said, got the recipe, and it was handed to my colleague Laszlo Herpai, who's still with me on this commission, and another gentleman called Jacek Spisak from Poland. And the two of them together formed a little subcommittee, and they went away into a corner and they feverishly wrote a set of rules. And out of those discussions that they had came the Libero rules that you now have. Well, not exactly, because the original Libero rules had 2 liberos in them. It was
No,
two
just one.
liberos originally, not just one. And what happened then was that we played with just one, because the 2 liberos were rejected, you know, and some reports had been done that the libero concept was a failure. It was actually not seen as a success by everybody, but nevertheless we persevered with it. The FIVB stuck with the libero rule, but 1 libero at the time. And then later on, by this time, I think I was president of the commission, and Yuri Chesnikov, who was an FIVB vice president, but also president of the coaching commission, he came to me and he said, "And how about our 2 commissions together make a proposal that we go back to the 2 libero concept?" And I said, "Okay, fine, let's do that." So we proposed that, and this time it was passed. This time it was accepted that we could have 2 liberos, and so it's pretty much as we have at present time. But you know, the funny thing was that the libero was designed to be a specialist defensive player, to help the rallies to flow. In reality, what the libero does is it creates a very strong platform for the first pass.
Yes,
Okay.
that's very interesting, Sandy, because it's a thing I repeat a lot. The liver was created for receive or for defense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But in an intent to slow the gap, or to make more little the gap between defense and offense, because
Yeah,
the volleyball offense is above defense,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, or above blocking. But ironically, the libero today it's a key player for offensive systems.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Did you
and
think? Did you think in that in the beginning, or
no,
you didn't see that?
no, we didn't. This is a thing. I mean, I've said this on many occasions in the past. Because volleyball has a net and it has 2 sets of players, but there's internal passing. In other words, of moving inside the 2 halves. It becomes a little bit like a chemical reaction. When I trained as a chemist, this was what I did for my teaching career. I taught for 42 years chemistry. And if you've got this kind of chemical reaction, it's called an equilibrium. And there was a famous scientist called Le Chatelier, and Le Chatelier said that where you have a system at equilibrium and you subject it to some stress, the system tries to fight against the stress that you've imposed on it. Now, volleyball is exactly like this. You change a rule, what happens is that you get many other things happening afterwards. You know, the coaches change the tactics, the players change the techniques, and you eventually end up getting back to where you were in the first place. So although the libero was designed to do this particular thing, it effectively ended up back to where we were, exactly as we were before. But having said all that, the libero is a spectacular player, no doubt about it. You know,
No doubt about it.
and there are some really spectacular things you see on YouTube, which yeah, this demonstrates just how good some of these athletes are. They do the most amazing things.
Yeah, and now in today volleyball, it's a very specialized position. You can see Sergio from Brazil, or Jenna Grevenikov from France, or Eric Choji from the United States, Kayla Vanguard from the United States. Also, highly specialized players that if there were no libero position, they can hardly be part of a high-level volleyball team,
Well,
right?
that's the point that we had at the very beginning, that these players would work their way through several positions in the back of the court, but then they came off, and that was them finished. They could do that in every set, but they could not stay on for so long. Now the libero can go on and on and on and on. And so you end up with the spectacular player doing what they do best, entertaining the spectators. And that's what we want.
Yes, of course. Sandy, I have a few messages for you or for the streaming from a friend of me, Mexican, now living in Seattle, Washington. Says hello, both Alexanders. Good to
Uh-huh.
hear from an international and Olympic referee. Well, you're not just a referee; you're a volleyball personality, in my words.
Well, yeah, I mean, the small changes. I never refereed in the Olympics, never. But like many coaches, you don't always have to be a coach. Or don't always have to be a top player to be a top coach.
Yes, of course.
And I mean, I don't class myself as anything, actually, to be honest. I just do what I do best. I try hard, and I try and support the game. And that's the background is that. I've always tried to support the sport. That's you describe me as a volleyball personality. Well, I don't recognize me in that. Okay, I just do what I do. And if I do a good job, and I try and do a good job, then that's fine. That's satisfying.
Well, you have been in 6 Olympic Games, right? Involved
Yes,
in
yes,
the
yeah.
organization
Yeah,
staff.
my first one was in Barcelona in 1982.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be my last, if I'm honest. The reason it was a surprise, first of all, that I was there in the first place. You join the Commission in '89, and then you're in the Olympics in 1992, and you think, wow, that's fast. How did that happen? But
Maybe you did something right.
well, who knows? I don't know. It's nice of you to say so, but but as I said, I thought it was going to be my last, because I was in those days, the referee delegates used to sit on the table. You sat with the jury president on the table. And so on. So I was on the table in the most infamous game, USA Japan.
Yeah, with Mr. Rami Samedov from Azerbaijan.
Exactly. You know the story. Well, I was there. So
Wow.
um, uh, on my right hand side was Ricardo Rosamondo from Argentina.
Yes, I remember.
Also a very famous FIVB personality of his time. He was the coordinator between the rules of the game and the refereeing commissions. Okay.
And
But
and,
anyway,
and it is true that you spent all the night deliberating about that game. That's a
yes,
legend.
yes. Yeah, I don't know if your viewers know the story, but
I know a little. I know a little story.
yeah, well, the story was in this particular set, Samuelson from USA, number 8.
Bob Samuels on the center. Yeah.
That's right. My haircut, but even shorter haircut than me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he had abused one of the line judges early in the set, and he got a yellow card. And then later on, after many minutes, it was a long time, maybe 40 minutes the set had lasted. It was a long set. And because in those days it was side out point scoring, it wasn't rally point. Okay, which is another thing we invented in the 1990s, by the way. But anyway, so later on, Samuelson did the same thing again. And this time, Samedov took out another yellow card.
With the score 14-10 or 14-11. I think
It was 14 to something, 14-13 or 14.
it was
Maybe
match
something.
point. Match point for Japan.
Yes, it was match point for Japan. And so anyway, and in those days, I used to take lots of notes. I still take lots of notes, but I took lots of notes in my handwriting in those days. We didn't have computers then. And so I shouted to the second referee, "Hey, he can't do that. No, score. He's had a yellow card. Yeah, he's had a yellow card already. Okay, score. Okay." So we directed the second referee to go and tell Samedov what the situation was, and Ramis said, no, no, I did not. I did not give a yellow card before. You know, the second referee came back. What did I do? Go and tell him again. So back he went, and Samadov said, no, didn't. You know, anyway, so what happened was the second yellow card was not recorded on the score sheet.
Was not. That was that was a mistake.
Well, it should have been a red card. There should have been a point, okay? Or even better, had Samadov actually thought about it more, he would have expelled Samuelson.
Yes,
he could have done that, and we would never have this discussion. But anyway, he didn't do that. And so what happened then was the Japanese delegation came rushing into the control committee area, you know, and the captain shouting, protest, 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 you know. And but anyway, everything calmed down a little bit, and USA won that set and then went on to win the match. Yeah. You know, and it was afterwards, as you said, all hell broke loose, you know, and for at least 24 hours. I say at least because I was called up to the president's, it was Ruben Acosta again, his hotel was a different hotel, so I was getting phone calls saying, come and talk to us about this. And then I had to interview Samadov with Yuri Chesnikov, because Samadov from Baku, he spoke Russian. So Yuri Chesnikov, being a Russian, he was able to translate. And I had, who else did I have? Anyway, so we had lots of discussions about it anyway. And it transpired that Samadov had actually looked at the score before he gave the second yellow card. So he knew what he was doing. And he admitted that he knew what he was doing, you know. And because of that, because he actually owned up to it, he wasn't able to referee again in the competition.
Yes,
and again, the further discussions took place. The entire US Olympic Committee came, a really high-powered group, you know, and you're shaking and yes, of course. So much was riding on this, and but anyway, the match result was overturned, and I had to sit down with Lulu Mendoza. Now, Lulu was president of NORCECA.
Yeah, Puerto Rican, yeah.
That's right. And so anyway, he was a lawyer, and so he and I created the wording for this. Mr. Steele, you speak English, you do this. Okay, so that was it. And then after that, it was Mr. Steele. You will tell the press. So I had to go and sit beside Ruben, and they opened the doors to this particular room. I was sitting beside him on this table, and then all of the cameras and lights and whatever else, journalists flooded into the room, you know, and Ruben did his initial bit of speech, and then Mr. Steele will read the announcement. So I had to read this announcement, and I was still a teacher in those days, you know, and I had kids on vacation in the USA, you know, and afterwards they said, "Oh, you were the most hated man in the US at all that time." But you know, the funny thing was, until that moment, volleyball had actually gone okay, but not spectacular. You know, we had big crowds and so on, but the media hadn't really taken a lot of notice. And then after that, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to know about volleyball. So the upside was that we got a lot of media coverage, and so on. But
and well, Sandy, all the American team shave off their heads in
yes,
of Samuelson.
Yeah, and guess who had to tell them? Mr. Steele, you will go and tell the US team not to do this, not to turn their back on the FIVB flag. So I had to go and say, guys, you know, it was Fred Sturm was the coach of the US at the time, And Fred had actually been in Scotland before, and he used to come and golf there. And so I think he knew St Andrews, the home of golf, quite well. And he was such a nice, quiet guy, you know. And it felt really, really terrible to say, Fred, please ask them not to do that again.
And well, at the end, the U.S. lost the semifinal. They won the bronze medal.
Yeah, they got the bronze. They got the bronze. So, but
Oh.
they could probably have won the gold had it not been for the way the draw worked out. But okay, that's history.
Wow, that's great. Thanks for sharing, Sandy. Still, a person who you were in the first hand of that situation in Barcelona.
As I said, that's why I thought this is going to be my last. They'll never invite me back again.
But you returned to 5 more Olympics, right?
Yep.
As a part of the control committee or as a referee delegate?
Always referee subcommittee. So you acted as game jury, game delegate, game refereeing delegate, I should say. So I was there to help with the clinics and help with the evaluation of referees. So that's been my job all these years, is evaluation and instruction of referees.
Okay, and which Olympics did you enjoy the most? Maybe London because it was in home.
Well, it's wrong. It's wrong to say that what one was better than the other. They're all different, you know, and different doesn't mean better. I must admit, I really liked Atlanta, funnily enough. And that's nothing to do with the fact that the Coca-Cola plant has a big exhibition there. But anyway, no, I really did like Atlanta, and even after the bomb went off in Atlanta, I still enjoyed everything. We were based. There was two venues. There was one was the Omni Auditorium in Atlanta City itself, and the other one was about 40 minutes away in the university town. And that was a beautiful venue. It really was a fabulous place. And so that was where I spent the first half of the competition, was in the university town. And that was great. I mean, it was luxury, really was luxury. But then as the competition begins to shrink, we come back to the Omni Auditorium. And but as I said, apart from the fact that I had been in Centennial Park immediately before the bomb went off, you know, that was that was something that my wife constantly reminds me of, because in those days there were no cell phones. We had no ability to phone each other, so she didn't manage to contact me for about 48 hours after the bomb. You know, and things changed, and the first few days of the competition, you know, everything had been going pretty smoothly, apart from the transport. Transport was a nightmare. Okay, I'll say that now. But then it's a nightmare in almost every Olympic Games. They don't seem to learn from each Olympic Games. They all want to do their own thing. Possibly Beijing was the best transport. Okay. In terms of organization of transport. But anyway, so that was my experience of Atlanta. Was everything going fine? Then all of a sudden, you've got people with mirrors looking under your vehicle and so on. So the atmosphere did change a bit there. And since that time, every Olympics has had its share of security. There was in Barcelona, there was really no need for any security of that level, but then after Atlanta, everything changed. So
yes, I can imagine. Well, I have had the opportunity to have here in the show people like Willie Paredes, referee in Atlanta, Juan Angel Pereira, Negro Pereira, who was in Athens and in Sydney. Paris Roll was a linesman in Atlanta in the gold medal match. Mireya Luis have been here 3 times in the show. Great personality.
yeah.
So well, and now I have you, so I feel very honored. Thank you very much. I have more messages Rami Shaheen, I think he's from Egypt, says good evening, sir.
Okay. Hi.
And my great friend Mexican Miguel Angel Ramirez Miguelito says hello, my dear friend Sandy. Hello, Alex.
Hello to him too. Yeah.
And well, Miguel sent me a picture. He says that you make this draw.
I did. Yes. I did. Yes. Yes.
It's a picture of Miguelito, I think.
It is. It is. You can tell from the mustache.
Here's your sign.
No. It was. It's good. It's good, and it was my pleasure to do that and to offer it to him. So nice.
Yes, great friend Miguelito, a five-time Olympian as
Yep.
a beach volleyball referee.
Yeah.
Francisco Medina from Cuba says, my best regards
Oh,
for Sandy.
I know him well. So thank you.
Miguelito Ramirez says, greetings, dear Sandy. I still have the cartoon. Remember that I even signed it. No, well, you signed it. Yes, of
Yes.
course. Georgios Bolonis, hello from Greece.
Yes.
Clau Vega, hello from Peru.
Okay.
And Mahender Saharan says also hello. A lot of people,
Yeah,
Sandy.
absolutely good. Well, hello to everybody. I can't say hello to every single one, but yeah, hello everybody. So nice to see you. Nice to at least get a chance to talk to you this way, which is nice. It's good.
Yes, of course. Hey, Sandy, can you share with us something about the process for a new rule? How can an idea of a new rule can become reality? I remember 3 or 4 years ago in the under 23 World Championships, you try this best of seven
Mm-hmm.
set and some limitations in the back row attack hit and in the serve. So it didn't realize, I think. But how does a new rule came a reality?
Mm-hmm. Okay. There are different ways in which a new rule can be created. And I mentioned before that one of the main tasks of what was the Rules of the Game Commission and is now the refereeing Rules of the Game Commission was to test rules, to test ideas. Now we get ideas from many places, and I shared with you the example of the libero. The libero was not our concept to begin with. We had other plans actually. We were trying to find alternative ways to do substitution. We were trying to do more substitutions and so on. Like in Australia, I think you have 12 substitution rule. In some parts of the states, you have 12 substitutions and so on. So we can get various ideas from people, and they come to the commission, and the commission will actually discuss them. If we think we are going in the same direction as the proposal, then we will take that a little bit further, and we'll try and work through some ideas, probably at national level. Our main idea is you don't want to test it in FIVB competition really at the beginning, because a lot of money's involved in that, and you've got a lot of effort and training, and you've really got to allow the players a chance to acclimatize to the rule, so that they're not coming in cold and all of a sudden they're doing something completely different to what they were expecting to do. It's their time in the sun, as it were, if I can put it like that. So they want to play to the best that they have trained for, not to have to work to some other rule that they have no experience of. So that's the kind of thing that would happen, and then we would hope to get some of that information and take it. If the data that we get from the national level is actually pretty good, we can take that back to the board and say, look, we'd like to test this at an FIVB competition. We'd have to give them enough lead-in times so the coaches know what it is that they're going to be faced with, and take it from there. Now, one of the most detailed tests that we ran was with the substitution rules. when I was involved in the Universiade in Serbia, and we had 4 venues in Serbia that I think we used, and we ran, well, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think it was about 200 games, something like that, which is a lot of games to do, and you get a lot of data from that. And the Serbians were actually really, really helpful to allow us to do this, and we had to do coaching of the scorers in the 4 venues. So we actually had to drive out to these places all over the country to actually teach them how to do this. We had to invent a new score sheet as well to allow them to do this. So we did all of this, and then we evaluated how things had gone, and we did subject it to a lot of stress. We had a lot of discussions, for example, with FISU, which is the organization which runs the university games. And so for at least 6 months, maybe even more than that in advance, FISU and we, mostly me, had actually worked on what the evaluation would be and how we'd actually do the substitution rule. How could you do it was a flexible substitution rule. You didn't just have 12, you actually had 12, but you could do A for B and B for C and so on. It wasn't just straight backwards and forwards exchange. You could actually do multiple things. So anyway, so we analyzed that, and the coaches really liked it, but it didn't go any further than that. Which was a disappointment, but that's the very nature of how rules are created or not created. You actually take them as far as you can, and then we don't write the rule. We don't make the rules. We write the rules, and we have to take it through the board, FIVB board, for them to look at it and say, yeah, okay, well, we'll allow you to test that further, or no, we want to stop that there, and we'll not go any further. Now, you mentioned the under 23 event. Now, that wasn't our test as a commission. It was actually given to us, and we were told, okay, we're going to test that, and you can evaluate. And so we did. So we did the as best analysis we could. What I would say is that you really shouldn't be testing more than one thing at a time. As a former scientist, you know perfectly well that you change one variable, but you don't change more than one, because otherwise you confuse the data. The data doesn't mean an awful lot. So we were expected to test 2 different things there, and okay, I'll be honest, the 7 sets may have worked, but they needed to be longer. So they were to 15 points rather than to 21 points or 25 points. So they needed to be longer. A lot of the matches were quite short because of that. The second rule that was tested at that time was to try to reduce the impact of the service. The player had to land before the line. You know, you can serve at the moment, you can actually land within the court. Well, the rule that we were being asked to look at was the player had to land on the free zone side of the service line. That in itself created problems, because as a referee yourself, you know that when you serve, your eyes track the ball, and you don't see where the player lands necessarily. It doesn't matter to us. And so if players fouled the line, the referee didn't see it, and the line judges were waving the flag and nobody was paying any attention to them. So there was a major issue with that. Now, I would actually have taken issue with the idea anyway, because the way that the game is running at the present time, you have something like 70% going on the attack and 30% on the defense. Now, what you really want to do is to make sure that that service is devastating. You want a very powerful service. You don't want a weak service. So what happened was that these services became very, very floppy and not very powerful at all. And so the service reception just picked it up and killed it. So that's something that we need to be aware of. What I said before about the equilibrium situation is that you do something, and if you're not sure of what you've done, you could create entirely the wrong impact to what you're intending to do. So anyway, so we did analyze that. We then discussed it within the commission, and our opinion, and also that of the board, was shouldn't take that any further. Now, it could well be that we still come back to look at scoring systems. We're still trying to find the perfect scoring system that would give us a 2-hour game, or a game somewhere between 1 hour 45 and 2 hours, because that's the time slot that TV likes. So if you did the 1 hour 45, you could then get all the replays and interviews that you wanted, and still finish within a time slot that TV would like, and do your advertisements and so on. It's not there yet. Whether or not it's going to be, I don't know. But like what we're doing at the moment, a lot of people actually watch things on their handheld devices, their cell phones, etc., which are mini computers. People are watching on demand as opposed to watching terrestrial TV. So whether or not that's the direction that continues, that we don't watch volleyball live anymore, or we watch it live but not on a commercial TV station, maybe that's something that we will find in the fullness of time. We don't need to think about.
Thanks, Sandy. Very, very great explanation. What do you think can we expect in the next few years with this volleyball trend? Volleyball is becoming more powerful, more strength, taller players, stronger players. What do you think we can see in the future? Obviously, not in confidential, but with this trend of volleyball,
No, it's everything that you said is coming to pass. Now, for example, we have a lot more technology now, and the technology is filtering down to lower levels in the game. You know, in the London Olympics in 2012 was the first Olympics that we actually had e-scoring. Before that, there was no e-scoring. But all of a sudden we had this, which then created much more fluid substitution systems. Now, when I wrote the substitution process, before, if you think about it, before we actually had the players would come running from the warm-up area, and you were never sure if a referee would allow the substitution or not allow the substitution. So we created the situation where they stepped across the dotted line. That was the request. That was when we knew precisely, and everybody had no doubt. If they weren't there before, then that was not a substitution. So, but the scorer was given the power to actually decide when that substitution request was made. That empowered the scorer. So the scorer became a much more powerful person, a much more important person in the whole process. So we did that. Now we've got more technology. We've got the tablets for the coaches. We've got a tablet on the post for the second referee. We've got a tablet on the post for the first referee. We've got a mini television on the first referee's chair. Okay, we've got a challenge referee. We've got headsets like you've got on just now. Okay, Vocero headsets. All of those things together at the moment, along with Hawkeye, are making the game much more fair. Okay, and in fact has calmed down a lot of the action, as it were. You know, a coach now that doesn't agree with a call can actually request a challenge. Okay, but it's done calmly. It's done much more calmly than it could have been in the past. So, I assume technology will become even more important. Hawkeye may, in fact, expand what it can do. At the moment, you can't see the ball passing the antenna because of the position of the cameras. But if they put a camera above, maybe they can see the trajectory of the ball. So that may help. That'd be another thing. they may look at contact in the back zone. You know, at the moment we can look for block touch, and that's it. Okay, what about the block touch? Then it hits or misses the block, but hits somebody on the way out of the court. Okay, we'll see. We don't know about that one. But I would think that you know, automatic in and out will be something that will come. You know, already Hawkeye itself has on its technician screens, you know, it shows red or it shows green if the ball is in or ball is out. So if that could be transferred immediately to the referees via the headset, you know, you can have a tone that would tell you the ball's in, ball's out. Okay, that would save you 50% of challenges. You know, if that was happening, the referee would never be wrong. So save 50% of challenges. That would save a lot of time. So what I said before about the 2-hour match, maybe you immediately shrink the time because challenges do take up time.
Yes.
You know, I think we'll probably lose completely the technical timeout, and I think already in countries like Netherlands, for example, they are experimenting with relaxation of the second pass, the overhand pass. You know, so okay, we've relaxed the reception. Okay, maybe we'll see what happens when if we relax the setter's contact with the ball. You know, provided the ball would stay on their own side and it's not, you know, a big mess and the ball goes over and it can't be defended. So those are the sort of things. I know the Coaches Commission has thoughts about making the tip like in beach, but again, that's something that's something for future discussions. It's not there yet. Whether it ever will be, I don't know. But that's the direction. That's the direction I think that we will possibly go on, and further education. But you're right. The players have got bigger. They're faster. They're stronger than they ever have been before. The ball is flying really, really fast, and we've actually said on many occasions to referees, look, you need to make the decision now for ball in, ball out, because the line judges, although they're doing their best, often the ball is traveling too fast. And you must appreciate that the ball really does deflate on the floor, you know, really flattens out. So the contact with the line is actually much more common than we ever thought it was. When we did the first analysis of ball in, ball out, you know, we always said first contact with the floor, because in those days the ball really, I suppose it was traveling fast, but we had no real concept of what the ball actually did when it hit the floor. But now we appreciate that the ball hits the floor and completely compresses to, you know, half its size.
Yeah.
Okay, it spreads to 20 it spreads to its whole 20 centimeter diameter.
Yes, of course.
And therefore, anything that's close to 20 centimeters to the line is likely to have hit the line. Yeah, but it doesn't just hit like that. It hits and then it wobbles like a balloon full of water, you know, and then it moves and then it leaves the floor from a different position from where it landed. So our eyesight is really not good enough to see that. So we have to understand the process in order to understand how to make a correct decision.
Yes, of course, totally agree with you. Thanks for the information, Sandy. And I think, well, according to this, stronger, taller, faster players, I have heard a lot of opinions ideas of a lot of people from different countries that say, hey, maybe FIVB has to rise the height of the net. Um, because, well, in high level competition in VNL or Olympics or championships, it's not an obstacle, the more the net, you know. Is there any talk about that, about the height of the net?
I'll be honest, it's floated from time to time, but when you look at the action it makes very little difference whether the net is where it is or whether it's another 10, 20 centimeters higher, because these guys are jumping, they're getting their waist level with the top of the net.
Yes, of course.
They're hitting from almost the height of the antenna even now. So does it make any difference? Really, probably not. They'll probably just jump higher. It makes a difference to people of my height.
Or my height.
So,
Yeah, not all of we had a height of 2 meters.
yeah,
You know? And volleyball is a very universal sport, so you have
it is.
to
Well,
write the rules.
that's the thing. You need to have currently anyway. You need to have rules that benefit everybody, that everybody can play with. There is a school of thought that at international level maybe we should have different rules from everybody else. You know, and so you could actually have two sets of rules. One like I suppose the analogy would be NFL. Or NBA. NBA probably better analogy. NBA plays to different rules from the international game, you know, because you know they do. NCAA in the States plays to different rules from the international volleyball in the US as well. So there's definitely space for doing that. And in fact, I even saw the other day a game called table volley. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yes,
It's like normal volleyball, but you're trying to hit the ball onto a table tennis table, you know. So there are various variations of the sport that you can play. So, and I do see in some places, for example, in Italy, I think at junior levels, they're actually doing special things with the libero. You know, so all sorts of different things are happening.
for example, here in Mexico, in Sinaloa, who is in the west of the country, we have a variation of volleyball that is two on two or 3-on-3.
Uh-huh.
They play on a dirt court,
Uh-huh.
dirt, and the height of the net is 270,
Uh-huh.
280, and that's why they play. And they play on Friday night, Saturday night, and they can have around the court 500, 600 people watching the game.
Yeah. And because the net height is so high, the rallies will be longer because you cannot kill the ball, I guess.
Well, no, there are a lot of those players that they can reach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are used to do that since they have 10 or 12 years old. They have played 8 or 10 years at that height, and that's normal for them. And it's curious because you put those players in a regular court, they don't know how what to do. It's different court, different floor, different net, different environment, and a lot of them don't know what to do. Okay.
I do remember actually that I was in Norway and I was doing something with their national championships, and I remember that the winners of the championships were all beach players. It was a team composed of beach players, and because they had played so much on the beach, they became very strong, and their jump was really high. So they beat the other indoor players. So.
I have a few more messages. Alex Steele, thanks for being here. Sandy. Fabian Concia says, greetings from Mendoza, Sandy. Big hug from Argentina.
Hi.
And Dennis Perez from Dominican Republic, now living in New York, says, regards from me. Dennis
Well, regards to him too, and regards to all the others too.
Georgino Agustin Ortega, good afternoon of the Callao, Lima, Peru. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sandy, it has been a great talk, a very entertaining talk, very funny. Thanks a lot. Can you share a final message, final words for all the people who are watching, please? And again, thanks for accepting the invite. It was an honor for me.
All right. Okay. One final maybe more than one. Okay, trouble. What I would say is, in these difficult times, what you're doing to allow us to talk to people and to share is very, very important indeed. It keeps us alive because the game is in our blood, and
Yes,
it
of
keeps
course.
the sport alive. But I would also say that keep tuning in, keep going online, everybody, and learn all you can, because this is all about continuing referee education. And until such times as we can actually get to blow a whistle again, this is upskilling, you could call it. We're developing new skills, we're learning new things. Just keep on going. Okay.
Oh, thanks, Sandy. Last question, Sandy. Have you ever been in Mexico or not yet?
I have been in Mexico, and you know the funny thing was I wore a kilt, Scottish traditional dress, in Acapulco. Funnily enough, we had a board meeting there in a long time ago, and in those days the presidents of commissions would attend the board. I remember it being very hot. I loved the mariachi bands. Is that
The
correct?
mariachi, yeah,
Yeah.
mariachi.
And I was in Cancun
For the
a
World
couple of
Congress.
years ago for the Congress, yes. So again, the usual thing, I had to speak at Congress.
And Sandy, which Mexican food do you like the most?
Well, you see, I like anything hot. I
Oh,
like
yeah, really?
everything that's hot. I really do. People think, okay, you come from Scotland, you cannot possibly like hot things, but I do. I really do like Mexican food. So the hotter the better.
Oh, perfect.
And you have nice beer too. I like the beer.
Oh, like Corona, Modelo.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
there we go. So that's my likes and dislikes.
Sandy, thanks a lot. Has been a pleasure. And well, I hope to meet you pretty soon in a volleyball court. Could be awesome. Thank you very
You
much
can
for being here.
you can always invite me back, and I'll do some more chat. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
maybe we can make part two, of course. With you, we
All
can
right.
make three or
Not
four.
a problem. Not a problem. So anytime. Okay. Thanks
Okay,
again.
Sandy. See ya.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.